Yeah, the first thing you want to do is to search for IDLE. After downloading Python, this is the first thing you want to search. IDLE. I'm using version 3.10 here. You might be using a later version of Python, but whatever we're doing here, you'll be able to implement in that. So just search for IDLE and open it up. So what you'll see is going to open kind of like a terminal where you like prompts or a terminal where you put in commands and it gives you results instantaneously. But we won't be making use of these. We won't be making use of these at the moment. So what I mean by that, let me just show you an example of what I mean by giving an answer immediately. Take note of what happens after I tap in enter. You can see it returns my result. It gives me the result. So what print basically does is it spits out everything, anything I put within it, it spits it out for me. So that's just what it does. We want to be working in a shell where we can actually write our code, then we have to run it separately. I think that's the way we learn better. So we come to file, you see new file, then let's save that file. Now let's go to desktop, YouTube, and we can call it tutorial 1 or tutorial D1. So maximize, then we'll start. Today we'll be talking about data types and variables. Data types and variables in Python. There are four basic data types you should know. We have strings, we have integers. I hope I'm able to type all this time around. Strings, integers, floats, boolean. What is happening tonight? Boolean. And yes, I said four. So just those four: strings, integers, floats, and booleans. Let's look at them one after the other. This is very important for you to learn before you actually start learning to code. It's the first thing everyone must know as a programmer. So we're putting my name here. I also have another where I put in a number. And let's see. Yes, I have another. This time around, double quote. And I put in Bernard. Let's see Bernard, yeah. So take note of all this. A string is basically anything enclosed in quotes. Just understand that. As simple as that. Anything enclosed in quotes. So this is enclosed in double quotes. So we call the whole of this a string. We have numbers in between these quotes. As far as it's having these quotes around it, it is called a string. Please take note of that. Because as we go on to the next one, so you don't get confused, I'll explain it then. So we have Bernard to enclose in double quotes. So you can either use a double quote, you can either use a single quote. So a single or double quote, as far as it's wrapped in it, it is called a string. Just as simple as that. So we'll go to integers. Integers are just numbers. Integers are numbers, whole numbers, negative, positive numbers, they're integers. So you can see here we have numbers enclosed in quotes, and we call that a string. But when we don't have quotes around the number, it is called an integer. Take note of that. So even if you have a number, as far as you have that quote around it, it is not an integer. It is called a string. But once the quotes are off and you have a number in it, it's called an integer. So integers are just numbers, positive, negative, whole numbers. When we come to floats, the same applies, positive, negative, decimal numbers. So take note, floats are just decimal numbers. They can be positive, they can be negative. So take note of that. So we can have a negative one here. So each of these are floats. So take note of that. This is a float. This is a float. Why? Because that's a decimal number. Finally, we talk about booleans. Booleans are of two types only: true and false. False. Yep. So we have true, false. Take note, the initial starts with capital letters. It is very important. If we have it like this, then it is not valid as a boolean. So booleans, their initial starts with capital letters, and there are only two types: true or false. Take note. You can see it's colored in orange or whatever this is. Yeah, I think it's orange, yes. So look at this again, pause it, try to understand all I explained here, refresh it in your memory while I do this. Yeah, so I'll be asking you what this means. I'll be asking you the data types for each of this, and I expect you to just put it in the comment section. Even though, of course, I'll review the answer, so there's no need. I'll surely review the answer at the end. So just try your best to give this a shot. What data type is this? 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 So I want you to look at each of them, pause the video, and once you're done figuring it out, come back here and I give you the answer. So I hope you did pause the video over there. For the first one, I said anything wrapped in quotes, be it single or double quotes. It can be a combination of letters and numbers, whatever it is, we call it a string. So they are called strings as a data type. But the ones that are all numbers without a decimal point, all numbers, be it negative or positive, they are called integers. And the ones with decimal numbers, decimal points, they are called floats. Floats. Come on. Okay. Finally, the one we talked about, I said it has only two types, true and false. Easy, right? And that's Boolean. So I hope you got all this right. Let's move on to the next aspect. The next thing we'll be talking about is variable. What are variables? Variables in Python just basically means I'm storing a value inside another. That's just a variable. When I've heard of variable X, variable Y, stuff like that in maybe high school, maybe not. But I can have a variable like this, saying name equals, so this is just my name here, Jerry. So I'm saying name equals this. So I've declared a variable. So when we have something like this, saying something equals another, we say we're declaring a variable. So name here is our variable name, and this here is our variable value. And we declare our variable with this equal sign, equal to sign. So the equal to sign must be there. We must have a value and must have a name for it. So the name here is just name, and the value is our I don't want to say the name now. So this is a data type, which is something we actually talked about earlier. So you should be able to guess this by now. So it's a string, of course. So a string because of the quotes, the double quotes around it. So say name, we can actually do something with it. Let's run something since we haven't done something like that. So to run, I just have to save and tap on F5 and it runs it for me here. So I'm just minimize this and make it a bit smaller. So stay by the side here. Okay. So it gives me my result, Jerry. I told you before, it's just spits out whatever it is. So it's storing this Jerry, this value, inside name, such that when I'm printing name, it replaces name with the value it as Jerry, and it gives me the results as you can see here, Jerry. Okay. There's what we call reassigning variable names. So I can come again here and just pick the same name and say I don't want Jerry again. I want it to be Bernard. I don't know what's up with me and Bernard. Anyway, we just say print name again. Let's see what happened this time around. We run it F5, and you can see the first instance printing name when it was Jerry, it prints out Jerry. Then it noticed you changed it to Bernard. And when we print name again, it prints out Bernard. So that's what we call reassigning variable names. So yes, so far we've been storing strings. We can also store integers. We can have something like age equals an integer 23. So I've declared a variable age, and I can print out age here, just like I did for the string. So if I save this and run this, I'm having 23 as the output here. So take note about that. It's very easy. All you just need to do is play with it. Put in values, try something, break the code. When you are finding it hard to actually solve a particular issue, then you can just come up with questions in the comment section, and I'm very sure you'll see lots of answers to guide you. So the print function here is a function actually. I did not talk about it until a later video, but I can just mention it here. The print here is a keyword in Python, and it cannot be used as a variable name. For instance, me saying print equals, you can see it's having this print in purple color. So I cannot say print equals, let's just put in something here. If I try to run it, let's see what happens. Okay, yeah, I'm still printing age. Yeah, I want to print. Let me just take this away. Let's see what Python tells us. If I say print, just like me saying print the print. So let's just see what happens. If I save it 5, you can see we have what? An error. So it's telling us object not callable. So the whole point is this print is a keyword that can only be used in this form and not as a variable name. So the only time you can use print is with this parenthesis in front of it. With this parenthesis in front of it, that's the only time it can be used. And you're only using it to call something else. It can be another variable name. For instance, let's just say we're talking about a true or false now. And I come here and say true. Remember, only the first letter of a boolean is capital. So if I say print choice, then this should work. I'll just save it and run it, and it gives me my answer true. So that's basically the function of the print. Just pulls out anything you give it, throws it out of the console for you. Yeah, before I leave the variables, there are some rules to naming a variable. You don't just give it any name and you expect it to work. So there are rules to naming your variable. We have variable names can only consist of an underscore, letters, and numbers. So you can only have this set of should I say types, data types, or no characters in your variable name. Underscore, letters, or numbers. That's the only thing you can have in a variable name. So you cannot have an hyphen, you cannot have an ampersand, you cannot have any other thing. Just underscore, this and this. Yeah. Let me give you examples of that. For instance, I can want to say my name. So I just come and say my underscore name. This is a valid variable name, which is valid. But if I come and say my name, this is invalid. Take note, invalid. So why is it invalid? Because I'm using hyphen here and not an underscore. So you can only make use of an underscore, letters, or numbers. That's all, period. Yes. Another rule is this. There are not too many rules, just very few rules. The second one is your variable name cannot start with a number. So your variable name cannot start with a number. So take note. I cannot have something like one name. I'm saying Jerry. So this will raise an error already for me. So if I come and say print one name and I save this, try to run it, you can see it's giving me an error instantly, even before running it. So it's telling me there's an error there and it's not possible for me to actually have a number before my variable name. That's just the stuff. So take note, your variable name cannot start with a number. It starts with a letter or an underscore, but it can include a number. So meaning I can have something like name one, and I come here and say name one. Let's print this. So if I should save it and run it, okay, we're still having these at the beginning here. Let's just clear this. Let's clear all this. Yeah, Python does not understand that. So we save it, we run it, and we have our results here, Jerry. So you can see it works perfectly fine if you have it after a number or after an underscore. So don't get me wrong, it can be before the underscore, it can be after the underscore. It still works fine. If I run it, it still gives me my response. So those are just the rules to naming a variable. Must only contain an underscore name, letters and number, and must not start with a number. So finally, before we wrap it up, variable names, Python generally, Python is actually case sensitive. Meaning if I come here and say name equals Jerry, and I come here and say name equals, I don't want to use Bernard anymore. Let's say George, okay. And I come here and say name equals, let's say David. Let's say David. Why am I finding it out just picking a name? Okay. Now take note. Each of these are different variable names. If I come here and say print, just tell Python print name for me, guess what it will print out? So if we run it, it prints out the first one, Jerry. Why? Because these are all in small lowercase and the variable name here lowercase. So Python does not see these as renaming the variable. No, it sees it as an entirely different variable name. Remember I said if I come here and I say if I put the small character name, when I run this, let's save it and run, you can see it's giving me George, no longer Jerry. It's actually reassigning it to George. But when this comes and becomes capital N as you saw the other time, you no longer see George, you see Jerry. It's telling you this one is a different variable name. So meaning if you want to print it, you have to put a capital N there, then you save it and you run it, and that's when you get your George. And if you really want to print the David, you have to make sure it's always the same case. So you run it and you have David. So take note of that. Python is case sensitive and that's just how it works. So I believe you've learned something in this first tutorial, first video, and I really do hope to see you in the next one. If you actually love this tutorial, please don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. Really, it's really pays and encourages one to go into more videos like this. So please kindly like the video, share, and subscribe. Thank you, and see you in the next video. Bye for now.